Hello, everybody. My name is Pam Le Noury. I'm Head of Expedition Operations at Noble Caledonia. And we have with us here today on our Naturalist Chat, Pierre Malan from Cape Town. Pierre is a oceanographer. For many years, he worked at the department in Cape Town as an oceanographer and professor as well, I believe, Pierre?
Well, no, not quite.
Well, you're a professor in our esteem. He then ran away to the ships like the rest of us. And I've been working with Pierre for a very long time, certainly more than 7 years. It's a great pleasure to work with Pierre. I hope you wouldn't take offense to the expression old man of the sea. I'll certainly say that as a compliment. And it's great to have you here, Pierre. How are you?
I'm good. Just missing the sea as always. You know, sitting here, not being able to travel. We have the most incredible view of the sea. In fact, I always say on a clear day, I think I can see all the way down to Antarctica. Just exaggerating a bit, but I can see a long way south. And the one thing I find I really miss is being at sea, because I've been at sea for more than 50 years. So it's just one of those things that I've always loved, and I think I always will love.
That's exactly right, Pierre. And I think that's what we sometimes feel. People look at a brochure and they see there's sea days and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be stuck on the ship and have sea days. But I think it's quite the opposite. And to build in a couple of sea days and to really make good use of those sea days, that's where you can really see some extraordinary things. And when you're sitting on shore, you look out to sea, and then you sort of sometimes take that for granted when you're actually out at sea. Like, what is here? I'm finally out here,
Well, there's also, our expedition cruises are quite intense. We go, 2 landings a day, sometimes 3 landings a day. And the sea day is in many ways a way to just sit back, relax, absorb what we've seen over the previous however many days, recharge the batteries, write the diaries, make the sketches. I think they're brilliant. And I know that people are worried about the rough sea. And yes, the sea does get rough. But also, our ships are amazingly comfortable and amazingly stable. How often has your drink been thrown off the table?
I don't think you want me to answer that question, but no, not often.
So, to me, and also the being at sea, and especially lots of people have said to me, oh, we want to go to Antarctica, but I don't think we could handle the Drake. Yeah, the Drake can be wild. A proper Southern Ocean hoolie is one of the most dramatic, awe-inspiring things you have ever seen. But they don't happen that often. I don't know how many times I've crossed the Drake. But a lot of the time, it's been a whole lot less than rough. And in fact, if we have a look, this is what most people think the Drake looks like.
I'll tell you when I can see the screen share. There we go. Okay. Oh, great. We've got a beautiful albatross there in some pretty rough oceans. Yep.
So that's what most people think the Drake is like. And yes, it can be like that. But I think more than half the time that I've crossed the Drake, it's looked like that. And that's a whole lot different, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's still the wildlife, and the whole crossing of the Drake, especially the crossing of the convergence, is a rite of passage. I still, and after many years of research in the Antarctic and 15 years of expedition cruising in the Antarctic, there's that excitement when the air changes, it becomes crisper and more alive, and everything changes, and you've got to experience that. Otherwise, you might as well sit at home and watch it on TV. So that's the one thing. And of course, whenever you're at sea, a lot of people think, oh, well, there's nothing to see. But all sorts of things pop out. And there's always the old saw that the smokers see the best wildlife
Yeah.
because they're out there on the afterdeck. And that's true. But just a few pics from previous Drake Passage crossings. Some of these were taken on a wonderful old ship that some of you people watching might remember, the old Polar Star.
Old Beauty.
That for many years had Noble Caledonia passengers on board as a sub-charter. So that was the Drake. That roughness is not the ocean. That's the roughness is another whale going for a dive.
Gosh, that's not that often you see humpbacks like this on the Drake. Wow, that's magic.
And
it's in blues and fins. Yeah.
The next few photographs are from one of the most wonderful experiences I've ever had with whales. We were crossing the Drake Lake, as you can see.
Yeah,
Hannah
really
Lawson, whom some of you might know, was our expedition leader, and she was giving the Zodiac briefing. And in the middle of the briefing, somebody looked out the window and said, "Whales!" And there were these two humpies. And they came along and they played with us for more than an hour until the captain eventually said, "We've got to go now. We've got to get to the peninsula."
Yeah.
They came and they spy hopped. They've also discovered that if you go to one side of the ship and you look cute, everybody will rush to that side.
And
then
the whole
if you go
ship lists over.
the ship to the other side, 100 people will rush over to the other side. And they did this so many times. Time and again, they came and they talked to us. And then we had, it's not a great video because I didn't have a wonderful camera in those days, but the experience still sticks in my mind.
Gosh, you can really see how calm the whales are, hey? They really are approaching you. Wow.
And if you think this was taken with a long telephoto lens.
And it looks like a sheltered bay. I mean, it really does look like a sheltered bay.
It was smack in the middle of the Drake.
But now, Pierre, I don't want to give people the impression that this can be expected on the Drake. Hilarious. This is absolutely incredible, once in a lifetime. But it's exactly as you say, you know, you've got to be out on deck. You've got to be looking. And on sea days, anything can happen. Oftentimes we do these transits in darkness overnight, and you don't even have the opportunity to be looking out for things. But when you have these daytime crossings, these sea days, really, really magic stuff can happen.
You never know what you're going to see. So that's the Drake, folks. And
yeah, and you know, Pierre, the magic of those sea days is something we can plan a little bit. You'll know, and you'll have done as expedition leader as well, where a lot of the staff or the EL will go up to the bridge the night before, look at our speed, look at our timing, look at the charts, and start looking for any interesting sea mounts that we might pass, or distant islands, or look for where that convergence line might expect to be at this time, icebergs, depending where you are in the world. And there's all kinds of little clues. So we won't just, we sometimes will just put staff on the bridge just to be looking out. But generally we would like pinpoint the areas where we think there might be productivity and make a special effort to create these magical moments.
Yeah, and there are just so many. The west coast of South America is another great place because, of course, it's a massive upwelling area, massive productivity. And again, we mostly do go at night, but every now and then we have to have a day at sea. And a couple of years ago when we were going up there, we came upon a huge bait ball of fish. And just everything was working. There were birds like you can't believe, great big black clouds of cormorants. There were whales, there were dolphins, and just a few pics from that little episode. If I can make the technology work again. It's always a bit of a problem.
There we go. Oh, wow.
Diving pelicans.
Oh, my
By
God.
the 100. And I mean, I still get a bit boggled by diving pelicans because they really shouldn't.
No.
And yet, you think that they're going to self-destruct as they hit the water, but they don't. And they fish very comprehensively. And on this particular day, it was quite a long way away. But a telephoto lens, of course, gives you enough so that you can get decent shots. And everything was there. So the dolphins came in their hundreds. Not one, not two, not 50, hundreds of dolphins.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. And when dolphins start really going at pace, they actually start flying out the water when there's a food source. They start moving more out the water than in, like diving in just to bounce out again. It's incredible.
Yeah, that was the sort of thing, just over and over. And then when they were feeding like mad, and then they started just jumping. Like, okay, we've had enough now. This is fun time. It was superb. And of course, everything else was there. And you got that kind of thing. I mean, what a close-up. He's on his way. He's intent on going to get his share of the fish. So,
masked boobies all the way down there. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't all that. It was off the coast of Peru. So.
Oh, okay. So it's already quite far north. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, you get all that kind of thing. And we've seen this all over the place. Shoals of tuna. Great big yellowfin tuna. You see these things and you think, what kind of a dolphin is that? Well, it's not a dolphin. It's a 400-pound tuna jumping out of the water.
Yeah.
But of course, still my favorite, and I think yours, Pam, is the Indian Ocean.
Well, Exhibit A.
Exhibit A right behind you there. And the days that we've had at sea there, especially between Madagascar and Réunion, one way or the other. And there was the day once, in fact, on my very first cruise working for Noble Caledonia, when we had this mirror calm day, and the EL said, we're going swimming. And I looked at him and I said, yes.
Yeah, that doesn't even happen every season. Like maybe every other season.
It only happened once in my lifetime.
It has to be so calm and we have to have the time. Yeah.
And I said, there's 5,000 meters of water beneath us. So we put Zodiacs in the water. And we went a bit away from the ship. And then I was sent in as a guinea pig. First person in the water. And the water was crystal clear, and you could see the shafts of sunlight going down into this deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper blue. Went into the water, and just for a moment, I panicked. I can't stand.
Yeah.
And I had to sort of say to myself, it doesn't matter whether it's 5 meters or 5,000 meters, you still can't stand. So just relax.
Wait, you can't stand in 5 meters?
No.
Big guy like you.
Not and breathe.
Yeah, okay.
It was just the most amazing experience. And the people who did go into the water were stoked.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely like a mirror. But the other excitement, carry on.
I was going to say, we've spoken a lot about when it's magically calm, but there's something nice about a rolling ocean that, people all go have the best snooze of their lives in the afternoon. They have a pasta and one of those crumbles for dessert. Well, that's what I do. And then that will set you up for the best afternoon nap, rocking like a baby at sea when it's got that little wave going. It's so nice.
Yeah, there's that as well, the little afternoon nap or the relax in a deck chair or whatever,
Yeah.
catching a bit of the sun, especially for people who've come from Britain in winter to the Indian Ocean in summer.
Yeah.
But of course, for me, it's one of the great excitements always are the flying fish.
For sure.
And just standing in the bow and watching, and then seeing these little spurts of fish, sometimes one, sometimes like here, a whole, I never quite know whether it's a shoal or a flock. Do they go from being a shoal in the water to being
Maybe
a flock
it's a shock.
And one thinks, okay, flying fish, they all look the same, but they don't. There are all sorts of colors and patterns and sizes of wings. And some of them look like they're trying out for von Richthofen's squadron with the patterns that they have on their wings. How about that one? I mean, that really could have been one of von Richthofen's Fokker triplanes or something, except he hasn't got enough stacks of wings.
And I mean, the scientific name is Exocetidae, isn't it? Which is from the link with the military plane.
Well, it's the other way around. The missile was named after the flying fish.
Right, of course.
Because it skims the ocean and comes so low and then just follows the ocean. And of course, if you talk about military planes, you've got to have, and I saw your thing the other day with Sue and her fantastic photograph of the booby chasing the flying fish. The great sport of trying to get the booby and the flying fish all in focus at the same time.
I've never really got it right. I know you guys have, but man, it's so hard. It's such a good sport, though.
It takes lots of practice, but it also takes a huge amount of luck, unless you Sue. Sue sort of does it every time. But all that is so entertaining, and it's a wonderful way to also just stand and reflect and look at the ocean and think about what you've seen, and maybe think back to some of those Attenborough videos you've seen and think about plastic pollution and chemical pollution and oil and things and what we chuck into the ocean that really shouldn't be there. So yeah, sea days are not always just boring, and sometimes you see something you not only didn't expect, but didn't really know existed.
No way.
My favorite, around Madagascar, we see them quite often, the flying squid. So don't be frightened of those sea days. Look forward to them, enjoy them, and it just adds another whole aspect to the adventure that expedition cruising is.
Thanks so much, Pierre. You're absolutely right. And I know we've spoken a bit about some of the highlights we've accumulated over the years, and you might not get something like that on, every Voyager Sea Days, but there's also much more subtle things. Like, for me anyway, in the tropics, it's when you see the clouds really, really far away and they're green, and then there's an atoll over there and it's reflecting the lagoon. Or in the polar regions, it could be that the clouds are all uniform, but then over one section it's like beaming white and it's a massive iceberg. Yeah. And so there's things that you get a good feel to look out for. And it's one of those things, the more time you spend out on deck, the more you see things, subtle things, patterns, little critters, things that are too fleeting to announce. But that was your little nugget, your little special moment, your little fleeting tuna or something, wiggling down the side of the ship.
A sea snake or the
the Kimberley, we see the sea snakes quite often out there, and it's there's really so much to spend out on, so much to value to spending time out on deck. And just again, when you at home and you always looking out at sea, and then don't forget that when you are at sea, to just be looking out at sea, because here I am getting to see what's out at sea, and that in itself is a huge part of the journey. So thanks so much, Pierre. That was, sorry, carry on. Yeah.
So here we get a big pod of dolphins in the several hundreds who come in sometimes 2-3 times a week. and come
Gosh.
and feed in the bay.
Yeah.
So that's always, so whenever, even here, always having a look at the water, see there's a riffle. Oh, that could be the fish. Keep a lookout. Here come the dolphins.
Yeah.
And
And you
the
get
birds
so
that go
good
with
at you get so good at reading the ocean, like reading like very subtle changes of the weather, of if there's an animal underneath the surface. It's really wonderful. So the more time
Yeah.
you spend at sea, the more you get to read. So yeah. Pierre, thank you so much. It's been really enlightening. I hope people always learn to make the most of their days at sea, and that we get many, many more of them.
It's been a great pleasure, and I hope that we'll get together soon on a ship at sea.
All right, take care. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye, Pam.